Hello. The whole series today will be on aspects of press releases and when and how to know how to read them. I am trained in so-called evidence-based literature, which means literature also in press releases has to be based in truth. What does this mean? That truth and a journalist or reporter, we sometimes do not know for sure. Unless we know for sure, when it comes to things like hunger, all of bodily functions, preferences as to romantic relationships, and also where a person prefers to be, all of these things and wrongdoings and intentions, all those things, the only way to know is from that person directly. And persons, many of us as physicians and mental health specialists, we get out of the way literally to be able to learn or retrieve from a person in coma, in states of active seizures, or in states where a person is extremely emotionally agitated and is mute, or is incessantly crying, or is in such rage, such injustice has happened that is unable to control itself, or is so harassed that is unable to control an instinct to kill. We work on having personal statements from these people obtained in such a way that it has no pressure, meaning the person being calmed down is not medicated but able to trust and tell us not what we with pain obtained, which person can say anything to have that nocive stimuli stopped, but that person wants to tell us the truth because it's beneficial for that person and for all others. And the same is with press. You see, with press, to be able to write an article or on things that are punishable in codes called penal law or criminal codes internationally, wherever, but especially in the United States or in places where there's death penalty, that has to have no acronyms. The press release has to have those requirements: no acronyms, no abbreviations, no disguised names as to the person who is accused of such, unless that person is actually being protected because we are unsure. And if that person's name is released, that release of the name, it has to be in such way presented that that person is actually able to obtain protection from being harmed. Why? Because all of persons have right to free trial and having veracious obtained from self-confession, and there is zero mental incapacity where person is verbal, communicative, or even emotionally altered, and what a person needs is calming down, or the person is in pain and needs medical attention because was assaulted. Zero. If you see instances of such that the person over own head is skipped and somebody is lying, also as to own relationship wishes or bodily functions, needs for painkillers or sleeping aids or any other aids, contraceptives and surgeries, as well as need or information about spouses that is not obtained from spouse. Never. Even children is that's the protocol. Children in consultories are consulted selves. Parent is asked to leave the room to consent and know what the child wishes for. Nothing is administered against will because that is harmful. The same is with confessions and press releases. Wherever you see that, that's a crime, and those that do so, be it police, federal government, and whoever that is, are conspiracy to provide gain to corporation or someone that the federal government does not control because of press releases such as the treason, without any basis. If you do not know, and if you have doubts, then you have to go and find out who is harming the federal government and head of it, the president. And that's the press release. That is being moral, okay, and not doing harm to one person who can be in public light helpless or a target, the same as wife, children, and all persons there. Have you thought about it ever? Writing somewhere there, those in all glamour of whatever it is that the newspaper accepted it. Apart from having no abbreviations, no acronyms, and there is no place for slang. If there is slang in an article, that means any word that has more than one meaning and that has more than, let's say, 20-30% of population of USA not understanding what it means. That means that it is not acceptable for publication, and persons in rage can harm that person, that president, or the family. The third criteria to publish anything or not having it investigated in detail, also by whistleblowers, is to have that statement congruent with the title, especially on the internet. If title says treason, the article has to be congruent with what the title says. Unless when it's not, unless the title is explained at some point and the purpose of it is to draw attention and to have it somehow read. If that is the case, the title cannot suggest doing any harm to a person. If so, the charges to do so are from being shot to being then complaining, being stuck somewhere, and having then persons who belong to the same group like I kidnapped just based on belonging to a vocational group. What are other evidence-based requirements? In mass publications, when audience is large, so your journal is large as an editor or head of that journal, you cannot publish anything that suggests or may result in corporal injuries or harm to the person that you are writing about. It cannot be charged emotionally, so hatred or sadness that is based in own perception of being disappointed, that does not apply to others. For instance, president refused to an invitation to dinner or did not respond a phone call, and that has been 10 or 15 times. That is personal resentment and no need for a release on treason or any sort of bodily injuries in person. That is being selfish and worse than Stalin, actually, as press release, not as president. What are other requirements? Another requirement is that in plain language and accessible to persons who even lack primary school complete education in age or in a meritocratic basis, that article has to have facts that are inconsistent when it comes to otherwise. So facts need to state what the Constitution defines as treason in the United States, okay? It has to be in accordance to international laws, and that person then has to state in facts what happened, what president did, and that has to be veracious, meaning there's no alternate explanation, and person is sure that the president of the United States, right now Donald Trump, has committed an act that means and is translated in killings or harm, not only intentionally, but also with an intention to have it as harm, doing harm. So pro bono action, a president committed treason but had good intentions, is not treason. A person who has been ignorant or joked is not a treasoner. A person who intentionally went ahead and, for instance, had a whole government accused of, having in Russia built a bomb to explode White House, and accused and has no basis, and that he ordered, for instance, having CIA agents to have all of those persons, the whole government killed, took over the country to give it away to foreign country, whichever you choose, or to stay alone with wife and have all of the country on purpose, killed as he feels like it. That is treason, also killing or harming for gain of some, regardless of where they are from. Treason can be he did that so his secretary that put a miniskirt. That's also treason. So that is what needs to be stated in that article, so that even 5-year-old understands what exactly he did. It has, when it comes to having sex, nothing to do. Moreover, having sex or not having sex, it only is indirectly as an explanation derivative from which adults form loyalty. And that loyalty is not from being born to a mother or father. That loyalty is then from a marriage, and that marriage or fondness, it can be dream of a person, that loyalty is based in instinct to protect own child. And persons that this child would have as schoolmates or as friends or as workers, as own president and or as other persons and animals as well. And that is the natural instinct that is not compatible with treason, because what else needs to be added? To have committed treasons, someone is at fault. It means that person has over own head two reasons: either disparity in division of well-being and goods, such as also praises or being non-stop afraid of own life, in discrepancy with prior presidents. So one is praised for being black and the white one is hated. That's an example. And all the time afraid even to eat, or has gastritis because he's white. Second one, that's a reason to suspect that the person is so scared that is ready to live anywhere as long as he can finally be safe and have family safe. And that is possible to investigate who does it. And second reason is to have that person being prevented from basic needs or being at risk of being killed or harmed as threats, or as such intents, or blackmailed with medication or hospitalizations or any other interventions there. And that also is at fault, and it's the other way around. If you report treason, it means you have to go and find out who is harming your president and save him. The same as his wife, or see, maybe it's an ex-wife, maybe his wife, maybe somebody else also went there and is actually being there harming him right now. It has to be in real time now. Somebody is causing that person opposite to an instinct to protect whoever that person wishes for a child and own children, because that person feels that own life is at risk and is often in active pain, such as impossible to control fear. Of course, it is a dangerous situation, but if you do not have basis to say so, then I, for instance, as a whistleblower, I cannot report anything, and all you do with those releases is make one big social mess, nothing more. So do better, because I already reported some of these press articles to FBI, and I will continue doing it until there's some sort of an order.